Anil's joined us in the studio and he's doing his hair, making sure he looks camera ready.
We're live on YouTube. So
we are live. We are live on YouTube every day. You're right, Monday to Friday, live on YouTube, 8 till 10.
It's a dream. And not only do you get that, but you also get the rhythms. Bit of Curtis Mayfield now. We really are living the dream here.
Yeah. So I'm so happy it came in because I was about to say Kanye West.
Did you?
Because this was Kanye remixed this song, so I'm happy that Curtis Mayfield came in.
Right.
So because I was about to say Kanye West.
Were you about to, really? Yeah. No, Curtis Mayfield. See, I would only know this as a Curtis Mayfield song.
Keelan, our producer, has just sort of given me a little music lesson. Said Kanye beats slower.
Okay.
All right, Keelan.
Yeah, all right. What a hipster we've got as a producer.
Yeah, I tell him. Yeah, he knows all of this.
Coolest man in the world.
Yeah. Before the break, I kind of just put it out there. I said, you know what, Jadon Sancho needs to leave. And some will say, he's had decent performances, especially back end of the season. Obviously, he was out for a long time for whatever reasons. We still don't know what they are, undisclosed. But I just feel like the Jadon Sancho that came to United off the back of the form for Borussia Dortmund, where he looked like he was unstoppable. England squad, Jadon Sancho has to be in it. You know how bad it's gone for Jadon Sancho. He's not even in the England squad. No one even thinks about it. It's not even mentioned. It's not even a discussion. Like, where's Jadon Sancho? Like we talked about Raheem Sterling earlier. Like, Jadon Sancho doesn't make the England squad, and it's like,
yeah. No, there's no conversation. He's not worthy of even the conversation around the England squad. But I would now say, and I don't know what you think to this, Anil, I now think that Jadon Sancho should never play for Manchester United again. Like, genuinely, I think. Do you know why I say that?
By the way, Rory does not hold back, Anil. He just goes straight.
Do you know why? Do you know what it was? There was a moment for me in the FA Cup final. Right, is in the FA Cup final. Manchester United. Not only are they competing for a trophy, which is very significant for their own history, they are trying to preserve their status as being the only team to have won a treble in this country. Right, they are trying to stop Manchester City having the opportunity to win that treble, and Jadon Sancho's performance was pitiful. Then there was a substitution. Garnacho comes on, and he was everything that you'd want Sancho to be. There was a moment, right? There was a microcosm of the entire conversation about Sancho and Garnacho. 91st minute, ball goes out of play. Garnacho's over at the ball boy, desperately trying to get the ball back, desperate to win, trying to fight, trying to get the momentum going, and doing everything he can to inject some life and enthusiasm into the Manchester United team. Jadon Sancho, not a whisper of that. And that was the moment I thought, the mistake, with hindsight, that Ten Hag made was trusting Sancho and not putting faith in Garnacho.
Do you know what, Rory? Unfortunately, I'm inclined to agree with everything that you just said there. I know it probably doesn't make for good listen, does it? But no, jokes aside, I think, look, with Sancho, obviously, it's been reported today from a couple of media outlets that Tottenham are reportedly, as I say, interested for around the £50 million mark. And do you know what? With the situation with Jadon Sancho, I think we actually have to go back to when he first signed for Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer chased this young lad for 2 seasons because obviously they were linked with him the season before. Yeah. He finally got his man, and at the young age that Sancho still is, and even
how
more
much you
so,
paid for him again?
75 million, I think it was. But at the time, the season before, it was around 100 million. So you're thinking, you've waited a year, patient, we've knocked off 25 million, great bit of business. But then he joined Manchester United at a time where, as we saw in the Bundesliga, he showed this raw talent, didn't he? Just get the ball, and it's almost like he's back in the cages playing five-a-side. Just get the ball, show flair, and entertain the audience that are watching on. And he joined Manchester United at a time where he really needed some just coaching. I know it sounds crazy to say, but someone who's going to instill discipline in his game, to know when to make the runs, to know when to pass sideways, to know when to take your opportunities. And I do think Solskjaer has to take a lot of responsibility for Sancho's downfall at Manchester United. He should have been the one, considering he chased him all of this time, to provide that for him, to provide the platform for him to really excel in terms of, reaching the levels of professionalism, if that makes sense. And obviously, look, he's had the difficult time. He obviously went away, didn't he, to really, gather his thoughts, if you like. But he's come back now, and that passion, the drive that he had, as you were saying, when he was in the Bundesliga for Dortmund, it's just gone now. And you mentioned the FA Cup final. I was there, and unfortunately, and I was watching him play, and just every time he got the ball, the first thing he did, instead of getting his head down and running, was look around. Who's going to help me out? I need to figure out. Just get the ball and do what you used to do, as Garnacho showed.
I can't remember him. But bear in mind, watching quite a lot for Dortmund, I can't remember him at United dropping a shoulder and beating someone on the outside.
No.
Does he even do that anymore?
No,
it's almost like he cuts back in all the time or goes back. Like, when was the last time he actually went to the bar line and absolutely skinned someone?
Just like Garnacho did when he came on the final. Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on?
Exactly. And look, it pains me to say it because, look, you know, you do form a bond with these players. I know it might sound silly to some, but then they come in, you can relate to them in terms of their age, into what they're into outside in terms of fashion and stuff like that. You know, these holiday pictures of Jadon Sancho, they're always really entertaining to look at. So you do become inclined to like these individuals, but you have to take the emotion out of it in these situations. And I feel like with Jadon Sancho, I'm afraid to say it, he's surplus to requirements. And
wait. This is you saying this as well now. So as a United fan, you'll be okay if he leaves?
Yeah. And do you know what? I liken it a little bit to the situation where Rashford had that downfall in 18 months. There were questions about should he leave to, you know, really start his career again. But the difference is he's shown it in a Man United shirt. He's shown, look, I can step up. I might need a bit of time to recover on injuries and stuff like that, but I've got it in me. But with Jadon Sancho, there's just nothing to go off. And I would be over the moon to have Jadon Sancho as the left winger or the right winger, what Man United originally signed him for, and really make that his own. But unfortunately, he just hasn't done it. He looks scared.
I just feel like United need to be a bit more cutthroat with players like this now. Martial,
they've been too kind.
Martial's been, look, Martial's reminds me of that. Like,
100%.
100%, right? Like, what is he still doing at United?
I completely agree. They've been too kind. You've got to remember with Sancho as well. Erik ten Hag did something that I don't think I've ever really known before. They gave him a little bit of time off, didn't they? Yep. Like during a season, they just let Jadon Sancho find himself.
It was more than a little bit. How long was it?
No, it was quite a while.
It felt like it was a couple of months.
Yeah, it was. And look, that's what I mean. You can't turn around and say that Erik ten Hag or Man United have just given up on him, just, you know, pushed him out of the door and eventually wait for the summer or even January to get rid of him. They've tried to give him the opportunity to really blossom at Manchester United, and unfortunately, it just hasn't worked. I think it's gone that badly. The best solution probably is to move abroad again.
You mentioned Spurs there, 50 million, and you've also just now mentioned abroad. I don't know how, unless it's permanent. So Spurs, I don't know. If it's a loan, which I guess is more likely, really.
But it's just neither here or there with a loan, isn't it?
With a loan, and not only that, but I mean, he's rumoured to be on 250 grand a week. No one really knows these figures. We always like to make them up, don't we? But who's going to pay 250 grand a week?
The only reason why a loan would work is because what could happen is a loan will allow him to rediscover his form, and then suddenly you're selling a player that has a good track record, has delivered recently, has found a bit of form and has contributed something to a team. At the moment, effectively what you're trying to do is sell a dud. You're trying to sell a player that you clearly don't want in your team. You're trying to sell a player that clearly can't contribute to your team, and you're trying to sell a player that will not start for your team. So the price of that player plummets.
Where does he start for a team in the Premier League? But if it is the Premier League, before you say what you're going to say,
gets in a Tottenham team.
Son's on the left.
He would get in the Tottenham team.
Start.
No, but he would.
Son's on the left.
Do you not think they play him on the other side?
They tried that at Man United and it didn't work.
Kulusevski's on the other side.
It didn't work.
Kulusevski's on the other side. I know there's a Richarlison question as well, but honestly, as much as we say move on to another club in the Premier League, he's not going to want to drop from
Villa. Getting a Villa team. Villa, a lot of aspiration at the moment.
I mean, you'd initially like to say that he would, but then you think, would they sort of take that risk?
Who's on that left? Jacob Ramsey. Who's on that left for Villa?
The thing is with Villa, what they're gonna do, you know, they're gonna be competing in Europe. They could do with a player like Sancho. Yeah. But equally, from Sancho's perspective, I imagine he would see that as being fairly uninspiring. Yeah, exactly. Like Jadon Sancho won't fancy that, will he?
No, without a doubt. And they almost have this standard, and rightly so. You know, he was formerly an England international, obviously not recently, and This is almost the same thing in terms of the loan deal. If you do put him out on loan, then you're going to open the door for someone like Alejandro Garnacho to really make that spot his own. And I'm sorry, but that 30 minutes that he played in the FA Cup final was by a country mile better than anything Sancho's done this season.
I saw him at the boxing.
Garnacho?
Yeah, I saw him at the boxing. I didn't know who he was. Walked right past me and I was like, who's that with all the bling? Like, blinged out. I was like, who's that? Is that a rapper? Then I was like, my God, that's Garnacho. Blinged out.
He's such a good player. You know, just in terms of he just feels so Manchester United as well. Do you remember?
So direct, isn't he?
Do you remember that game? I think it was just before we broke for the World Cup.
Fulham
away.
Last minute he scored,
And it's like a teenager. It's a teenager scoring a last minute winner for Manchester United. It just feels so Manchester United.
Big time player as well.
Compare that to Jadon Sancho. Like, there's no moment, is there? There's no like obvious United moment for
100%. And there's one little thing as well that about Garnacho. I heard that obviously he dyed his, as we all know, his hair blonde.
That's what it was. Yes,
so he dyed his hair blonde, and I can't remember which Man United player it was, but they recently came out and they said, "Why did you dye your hair blonde? We've got a big game coming up." He said, "Good, I want the attention on me." And you just think to yourself, you just think that is the old Man United, isn't it? Yeah. But look, I think for Jadon Sancho, especially with the likes of Garnacho coming in, left wingers across Europe, it's always an exciting thing. And unfortunately, as I said, I think Jadon Sancho is very surplus to requirements of Man United. But just before I go, very quickly,
got about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
whatever
no
you're gonna
problem.
do. 30 seconds.
Just on the other side of this break, you said something about the Ricoh Arena. I'm from Coventry, Rory, and it's actually known as the CBS Arena. I won't take any slander for Coventry City ever again. Thank you very much. And also, who congratulated Faye?
We call it the
Who
Ricoh.
congratulated Faye
We
as
are
well?
old school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I call it Highfield Road. It's Highfield Road to me.
Yeah,
I'll never call it anything other than that.
I was not happy with that,
Even the
Rory.
London Stadium, we still call Upton Park.
Yeah, I think we should do that for every.
We do what we want.
As far as I'm concerned, Sunderland play at Roker Park. That's the end of it.
We do what we want.